related services throughout the entire DFW Metroplex. Our second sponsor is Dallas Renal Group, a physician group that Dr. Silvi Simon and I belong to. Dallas Renal Group provides comprehensive kidney care, including transplant and home dialysis services. Information can be found on dallasrenalgroup.com or on the Dallas Renal Group Facebook page. This is Dr. Paul Cespedes. I'm co-hosting today's show with Dr. Silvi Simon. We're live in the studio with Dr. Jordan Pastorek and Dr. Raj Kohli discussing weight loss, diet, and nutrition. The number to the studio is 972-235-5555 to be part of the conversation and to ask your question to our expert. Now, before the break, we had briefly touched on diabetes. It wasn't quite a full answer, and we want to kind of get back to that because it is such an important part of this because so many people have diabetes. So I think, Dr. Kohli, did you want to kind of add on to your what you were saying?
Sure. So I'm actually quite passionate about the concept of insulin spike, and I think it's a very, very important concept to wrap your head around, just not for just diabetics, but for everybody. So let's take an example of a person who's consuming sugar. So if you're drinking fruit juice, or if you're consuming fruits which don't have fiber in it, or if you're taking donuts or chocolate or candy, the sugar is going into your gut and is being absorbed by the small intestine. It goes to your liver, and from the liver it's distributed to all the organs that need it, including your brain, your muscles, etc. Anything that's over that, as a result of the sugar that you've consumed, your pancreas is secreting insulin, and that insulin will deposit the excess sugar in as fat in your body. So that's an important concept to remember, because if you're not consuming those simple sugars, i.e. if you're consuming sugars which have fiber in them, so if you're taking green leafy vegetables or oranges, etc., those will be slowly absorbed from the gut, and that will not lead to that insulin spike. So if you don't get that insulin spike, the chances of you getting those love handles and those fat and unwanted places will greatly diminish.
Thank you. Let's take a live call. Hi, welcome to Doc Talk. What's your question? Hi, welcome to Doc Talk. Hi, welcome to Doc Talk. What's your question?
So what you have, it sounds like, is a normal range of TSH with low T3 and low T4, and you're symptomatic. Do you have? Okay, so it sounds like you have some symptoms. So what you may need is a low dose of Armour Thyroid to optimize your thyroid to where your T3 and T4 are where they're supposed to be.
Okay, let's take
Yeah, so I would consult with your physician and try to balance your thyroid. It's very important.
Great. Let's take another live caller. Hi, welcome to Doc Talk. What's your question? Dr. Pastorek?
Yeah, so one of the things you can think about is when we look at weight loss and we see what the problems are, and we just talked about insulin spikes and depositing fat and all these things that we're trying to avoid for gaining weight, you can almost kind of look at it the opposite direction on if you are trying to gain weight, what you're looking to do. So one of the things that I would do is increase your carb intake. Carbohydrate intake is going to correlate with weight gain, and that's one of the things we do when we're trying to diet is we try to decrease carb intake. That will cause you to have an increase in weight, you have to kind of do it a little bit in a little bit of a smart way, because sometimes when you increase carbs and you do things too quickly, you can end up with swelling, and you also have to look at increasing your lean muscle mass. So you want to increase everything. If you're just going to increase protein and try to go work out, you're going to have probably a little bit slower gains than if you increase the carbs as well. So you want to increase your carbs, you want to increase your protein, and if you're trying to gain weight, you do want to put on lean muscle mass. So you're looking at more weightlifting, resistance training type exercises rather than doing specifically aerobic type. And so in general, and this is for everybody, in general we look at exercise as resistance training and aerobics, and we like to see a 2-to-1 ratio of resistance training to aerobics. So if you're going to do an hour exercise a day, you're going to do 20 minutes of aerobics and then 40 minutes of resistance training with bands or with weights. So definitely you want to increase your muscle building, and so that's where the protein comes in. But if you're just going to try to increase your protein and increase your weightlifting, you're probably going to see a very slow increase. You're going to have to push the carbs up as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pastorek. Let's take a live caller. Hi, welcome to Doc Talk. What's your question? Sure, Dr. Pastorek?
Yeah, so sleep apnea is usually a result of being at a high weight, and so obviously if you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to help your sleep apnea. Thyroid can kind of go both ways. Thyroid actually can make you, if you're underactive, can make you gain weight, and so you want to make sure that your thyroid's being treated appropriately. But I wouldn't delay working on getting your weight down with cutting your calories and working on cutting your carbs and these things to try to get your weight down. So you want to keep working on the weight loss, but you want to stay on top of your thyroid to make sure that you're not kind of fighting yourself, where your thyroid's not active enough, you're not having enough thyroid hormone, and your metabolism's low. You're going to have to work a little bit harder for the weight loss. But another thing we see with sleep apnea is that your blood pressure is higher during the daytime if you're not adequately treated. You're not able to get enough restful sleep at night, and so you're going to have more stress. You're going to have more issues with cortisol. So sometimes you're going to actually see a kind of a vicious spiral where the sleep apnea is affecting your weight loss. Where if you can switch it and start getting the weight down, then you're going to start to see a quicker improvement, because your sleep apnea is going to improve, the stress is going to improve, and you'll start seeing better weight loss. And so if you keep working on the weight loss, you're going to help your sleep apnea. You're going to need less thyroid, because with less body mass, you don't need quite as much thyroid hormone. So you want to work hard on the weight loss now while you're addressing the other problems. Make sure your sleep apnea is adequately treated, you're getting good rest at night, and make sure that your thyroid has been treated appropriately.
Let's take another live caller. Hi, what's your question? So I'm not really sure what the HCG diet specifically like, but in general, what should we focus on when there's so many fad diets and diets in general out there? What is important to know about weight loss during this?
So this is Dr. Pastorek again. HCG is a hormone in pregnancy, and one of the diets that's been around for decades is the HCG diet, which they use a small amount of HCG hormone coupled with a 500-calorie daily diet. A lot of patients do well with HCG, and most of the patients who do well, they really know about the diet, they've researched it, and there's some I guess controversy with it. It's not FDA approved for weight loss, and so it's an off-label use of HCG. Some people say that the HCG doesn't do anything and the 500-calorie diet is doing everything. Some people swear by the HCG diet and say that if you take the HCG, you're not hungry and you can stay on the diet, it gives you energy, and the theory behind it is that it's targeting your fat loss. Again, not FDA approved. But some people have great success with it. It's good for people who are trying to get weight down in a short period of time. But it's something to caution about is fad diets. There are a lot of fad diets that come around, and everybody, when they see these new fad diets, they want to try them. And it's probably smart to make sure that if you're going to go on a diet like the HCG diet, that it is medically supervised, you are seeing a physician, and you're able to kind of bounce things off of your doctor while you're doing those kinds of diets.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah, this is Raj Kohli. So just adding on to that, like Doctor said, that about the fad diets, those are non-sustainable. So whatever you want to do, you want it to be a sustainable diet. It tastes good, it's good for you, both not just for weight loss, but for your internal organs. I did some research, and it sounds like Mediterranean diet right now is the best diet in terms of increasing your lifespan and keeping you healthy.
Thank you, Dr. Kohli. Before the show, we were kind of chatting outside. You had mentioned something called mindful eating, which sounded very interesting. Could you maybe touch on that a little bit?
Oh yes. So this is a very this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, is mindfulness. And mindful eating essentially is that you are focused on the food. Food is a very sacred thing to you, and for people in general. When you're sitting on the table, it's a sacred experience. It bonds families, it bonds people. And don't diminish the value of food by sitting in front of a television or being on the cell phone when you're eating, because not only are you not paying attention to how much calories you're consuming, but you're depriving your body of the joy of food. So mindful eating essentially is when you're sitting there and you put the fork down until you finish the last bite, and then you take the fork up again and chew the next bite. So you enjoy the food while you're eating it. That would enhance the pleasure of food, and you will likely consume adequate calories that you need.
And I like to add on that too, because that's very important. And again, this is Dr. Pastorek. A lot of times, and you can sit around in a restaurant and watch people eat, just like you said about the fork, people don't put the fork down between bites. There's a term called preloading, where you take a bite and then you fill your fork up before you finish chewing. You can also watch somebody pick up a cheeseburger and eat the whole thing without putting it down. And one of the things that we know about how the brain works is that it takes time for your brain to realize you're full. And if you're eating quickly and not thinking, not having the mindful eating, then you can eat a lot more calories versus if you chew your food slowly, enjoy each bite, and take quite a bit of time so you can have that 20 minutes. It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to catch up. And you can eat very high calorie food in a lot less than 20 minutes and be on the path to weight gain without even realizing you're full. And so it's important to enjoy the food and eat slowly.
Thank you guys. Very good points. Let's take the caller. Hi, welcome to Doc Talk. What's your question? Okay. Sir, let's try to get to this question.
All right. So if you've been a diabetic for 10 years, it's very possible that your pancreas are depleted of insulin, and then you may have to resort to insulin because you have failed oral hypoglycemics. But I would try to do some diet, exercise type of stuff prior to committing you to insulin. Thank you.
Guys, we're about 1 minute left to the end of our show. I thank you, our audience, for making this such a great show. We're back in fourth season. We want to thank our guests, Dr. Pastorek and Dr. Kohli, for being here in the studio and talking about such an important topic about weight loss, diet, and nutrition. Any last thoughts you guys would like to share with our audience? Just about general health and nutrition?
This is Dr. Pastorek. Really just make sure that you're in close contact with your physician before starting a diet or exercise program. Sometimes you can get a lot of good information from your doctor, and there are some things they may want to check before starting a diet. Make sure you stay safe.
Eat a lot of green vegetables. Stay away from simple sugars. Do about 30 minutes of exercise every single day, and eat as many less cheat meals as you possibly can. Stay away from canned sugar and fruit juice.
Thank you so much, guys. And our website is doctalklive.com. please stay healthy, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Very good.
Nice.
Take them off and get
Jeez,
the last
there's so
words.
many